the name of Allah, the Exalted, the Sublime, the Most Merciful, and the one who bestows all mercy, and we ask Him to send His timeless, choicest, most abundant peace, blessings, and mercy upon our dear beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his wives and his family members and his companions, and all those who follow their example till the day of judgment, praying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us amongst them. Allahumma ameen. Pray in the beginning of this new series that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants us sincerity, ikhlas, tawfiq, blessing for success, guidance, irshad, and guides our steps from the very beginning, protects us from the evils of ourselves and the evil influences of shaitan, and allows us to reach the objective of servitude and obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and devotion towards Him. Allahumma la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. La ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is no knowledge that we have except that which you have taught us. You are the all-knowing, the all-wise. So bismillah, starting with the first session. Apologize for the delay. But very quickly, what are we going to be looking at here? The objectives of what we'll be covering here. You guys can't see the slides, so they're on this side. Oh, they're not on this side either now. I think I pulled this with my foot. So everyone pretend that you see nice slides. You want to come check it out, Ahmed? We're just, at least half of the sides will have slides. The other side, I guess I'll send them to you. Say it again? Yeah, see if you could figure it out. If not, I'll send them to everybody. The visual aid will help tons, but if it can't be figured out, inshallah. So the objectives of what we're here to do, first and foremost, to understand the spiritual framework of marriage. Marriage is another part of life, just like everything else. Eating, drinking, wearing clothes, career. And just like everything else, all of those fall under the category of devotion, of worship, of servitude towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in our lives we have rituals that we do, worship, servitude through worship, right? Like the 5 daily prayers, like Hajj, like Zakah. These are rituals. And then we have worship that we do in everything that we do. You figured it out? You're done. I'll try not to touch anything or sneeze. So marriage functions in the same structure, the same framework, the same lens that our entire life is viewed from, which is قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Say that my rituals, my prayer, my sacrifices, my devotion, my acts of devotion, what we call worship, and then my living and my dying. Everything that I own belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord of the world. So everything falls under that. The rituals and the worship is mentioned first because that's what first comes to mind. Everyone will understand rituals are for Allah. That's how it works, worship God. But then the other part is emphasized is because that is very often neglected. This belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Friday, Ramadan, once a year my zakah, once in a lifetime my hajj. What about the rest of my life? Who does that belong to? It belongs to me. I'll do what I want. Right? And I'll live the way that I want, and this is how most people understand it. That is not the case. That is not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us. So to understand marriage in that framework, where does it fit into it? Is it a purely religious thing? Is it ritualistic? Are there rituals that are involved? Right? This is what we're going to explore, the spiritual framework. That's what that means. The second part is practical tools, things that you'll need to get married in Islam and to stay married. That might be communication skills, conflict management, different things that we'll discuss, inshallah. Not just tools within our deen, but outside of our deen that help people get married and stay married. Definitely too dark. Is this good? I think this is intermediary is better. This seems like it is in the middle. Not too dark, not too light. And then we'll obviously go over the rights and responsibilities of each party of a family. It's not just marriage, it's a family, right? There's parents, there's children, there's spouses. There's different dynamics that we'll explore within Islam. And then we'll speak about modern challenges, controversies, conflicts that people get into in this specific field. We'll take about 12 weeks to do this, inshallah. It's like an estimate. Might be a little bit more. That would be a little bit less, but it might be a little bit more. What does that look like, the first 4 sessions? This first introductory session is just about the Muslim home. What is the First thing that comes to mind when we speak about the Muslim home, what are the main components of the Muslim home? How is it described in our deen? What is your outlook towards a Muslim home or family? That's something that we're going to explore today. Then the ideal spouse, gender neutral, because these qualities don't matter. They don't apply specifically to one gender. I just went through like 4 hours of traffic, so I'm a little bit fried, a little bit more than usual, just a little bit. So you guys can bear with me, inshallah, as we journey through this together. So the ideal spouse, the first look will be just about the general traits that every single person needs to lead a family successfully. Has nothing to do with their gender. Then we'll look at the gender specific, the ideal husband, the ideal wife. What are the characteristics, not ideal to you or to me, but ideal in Islam? And then maybe we'll explore ideal to you or me. I don't know if we'll have time for that or the care for it, but I'll try to get to it to hear what you have to say, inshallah. No, I'm kidding. I'm going to hear as much as what you have to say as possible all throughout so that we can compare, contrast, make fun of each other, and have a great time. Next section is looking at, so that's the foundations, right? Which is what the Muslim home is all about, the ideal spouse. And then the second portion is about getting married, actually. The process of getting married. Finding the spouse, the process of getting engaged, and the process of getting married within Islam. The next section is about actually being married. Things that you're going to run into. Communication, connections, conflict management, financial partnership. That's what we're looking at. And then lastly is parenthood and raising children. And then we will look at divorce, separation, reconciliation, how these things work, because they're part of the whole system. So this is part of what every Muslim should know. This is categorically, everything that's here is something that every Muslim should know. Meaning if someone were to come and ask you, what is the Islamic vision of a Muslim home? What does that look like? What are the most important principles? You should be able to produce some kind of meaningful answer that aligns with our deen, right? What are the most important, what are the roles of a husband and wife in Islam? The main roles that are highlighted. Where can there be compromise? Where can people just discuss, or where this is divine? If we can't answer all of that second-hand nature, and you're 21 plus, what does that mean? You got work to do, sure. But more importantly, you are a vital component for a failed Muslim home coming soon. That's the truth. If you can't answer everything on this slide right now, comfortably from your deen, or at least know where to find it, then you are a vital component for a failed Muslim home coming soon. Period. That's just how it works. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to us. This is what we have available to us. Not all of it is revelation, right? When we get to conflict management, communication, not all of that will be from Quran and Sunnah. But all these tools are available to ensure that you're a component of a successful Muslim home. And any of them are missing, that's directly going to reflect on the components of your Muslim home. But it's not going to be a successful one because it's missing these things. So we might have some bonus workshop for those who are on the cusp of marriage, meaning it's right around the corner, so that the information can be relevant to them. Things on intimacy, sexual health, premarital counseling, and maybe more. Stay tuned. But right now we're projected at 12 weeks, and we'll see what happens next. What is the Slido code? Someone would find it faster than me. The Slido code is 1270292. 1270292. Slidos for questions that either you don't want to ask in person, you don't want to ask out loud because they're sensitive in nature, or for things like this, feel free. I'll always prioritize real people in front of me, real human conversations, because they're real human conversations, and I'd rather have that. I'll prioritize real human questions too in front of me. I know these are human as well, but what I mean online is that I don't look at them as, they're not the same interaction here, so I will prioritize this in terms of answering and questions, but eventually we'll try to get to the Slido. So feel free to populate with questions every session. The code will switch. And in this case, I want you to finish the sentence. Don't populate questions right now. I'm not going to look at them. Right now, I want you to finish this sentence. Blank would be the perfect Muslim home. Take your time. And by take your time, I mean like 3 minutes because I got stuff to do. But like, think about it. Short, fulfilling sentence. A successful Muslim home always what? You don't have to answer all of them. Muslim families today need to blank to succeed. And then any word associations, adjectives to describe the ideal or successful Muslim home. I'll give you 120 seconds, as promised, and then read some of them off to discuss. If anybody wants to raise their hand and interact in person, that's fine. Those my kids? Sounds like them. No? Wow, dad of the year. I guess. Kids all sound the same. That's not my kid. All right. This never happened. When my kids come, don't tell me anything. Anybody want to raise their hand? Take your time. Yeah, Ahmed. There's no right or wrong answer, so you could try whatever you want. Like, consists of constant communication. Okay. This is just hearing what you have to say. I'm not gonna add commentary or agree or disagree. Successful Muslim home always places Allah and their God-given rights in the center of their marriage. Everybody agree? Huh? Taqwa Allah? It's the only answer so far. I'll give it a couple more seconds, see if we have anything interesting. You guys don't think of what makes a successful Muslim home? There's no right or wrong answer. I want to hear feedback. I want to hear some back and forth. There's no way that people sitting here, we're going to do this constantly, by the way. So I'm going to wait for you to give some meaningful feedback. Why? Usually it's our Islamic question. I give it a couple of goes, and then I say, okay, I got stuff to do. I'm going to answer and keep going. None of these are, well, some of them might be Islamic questions, actually, wait. But most of them will be hearing your thoughts about what a home looks like or what it shouldn't look like, what people should do or shouldn't do, should say or shouldn't say, be like or shouldn't be like. So if you draw blanks on all of them, first of all, that's weird. Like, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? You should be able to have some answers on some of these. Like, you think, don't you? You think about these things. But more importantly than that, all jokes aside, you're not going to progress or grow. There's no way that I'm going to come here and give 12 lectures and you're going to memorize 30% of them and then be able to implement that in any Muslim home or any interaction. All that's going to be fairy dust. It's going to be gone the second you leave here. Unless you take notes, study it on your own, and interact, or at least one of the above. So you definitely have to have, this has to be a two-way discussion for you to benefit, or else it'll just be me sharing my ideas with you, and you won't necessarily do anything different, which is what most people do. They come in, sermon out. They don't do much different year in and year out. Nothing changes. Very incrementally, very slowly, because they don't put in the work. They don't do any conscious effort. They think they're going to come here like a cup and faith will be poured into them. It's not how it works. Or information even will be poured into them. It's not how it works. It's an active process. So you have to engage to some effect. I told you guys before, I never feel awkward. I'm the king of elevators. I can take an elevator to the 100th floor and then back down and not feel anything except dizzy. As successful Muslim marriages places rahmah and mercy for one another as well. Muslim families today need to learn how to raise kids correctly. All right, shots fired. A successful Muslim home always is open to growth and criticism. A successful Muslim home relies on the love of Allah and His Messenger ﷺ and the concepts of mawaddah and rahmah. A successful Muslim family needs to understand that we're all being tested in different ways which affect each other, but our goal is Jannah together, so we support. A good Muslim family consists of constant remembrance of Allah. A successful Muslim family reminds each other of Allah always. Ya dunya. Okay, the prophetic model is something that we'll be coming back to constantly, so agreed 100%. Go ahead, sister. Okay, Jazakallah khair. Build around Muslim communities. There's another hand. Go ahead, Neda. A successful Muslim family is one where people focus on fulfilling the rights of others rather than demanding their own rights. Is that what you're saying? I mean, if it's not, don't just. I mean, if it's not, just fix it. Why would I? I'm just trying to say it for everybody to hear and see if I understood it. If it's wrong, fix it. Okay, so knowing your rights, but also prioritizing the fulfillment of the rights of others. So yeah. Islam as the foundation, not the secular or cultural one. That's the main framework. Brother in the back, you had your hand up. Jazakallah khair. Similar, prioritize Islam versus culture. Okay, thank you. Let's look at the Quranic blueprint for a home. So there's tons of ayat. We're not going to go over all of them, but just very briefly, what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell us about the Muslim home or family in general? He says a couple of things. So the first of them is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, وَاللَّهُ جَعْلَ لَكُم مِّن بُيُوتِكُمْ سَكَنًا. He made from you, from your homes, a place of rest. So the home exists, and you could argue this is either the structure or the emotional home. Both of them work. But here it seems to be talking about physical, as we'll see when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes it, but then we'll see in other places where they're used interchangeably. But here he's talking about the physical structure. The homes were made as a place of rest, and he mentions that you take from the skins of animals and their fur, different commodities, right? Because not all homes are the same. Not all homes need to be the same, depending on where you live. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying all of that was made for you to have that commodity, to have that comfort. And then he says about the spiritual or the emotional side, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ, the ayah that we always hear in all marriages and all marriage-related events, and it's from his signs that he created for you, from you, mates. So it's for you, خَلَقَ لَكُمْ مِنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ, from you. So they come from, this either means they're the same species, right? It's like the same, you're one species, right? You're one race. Or meaning that it's a highlight of how Hawa was created from Adam. Adam alayhi salam was created from teen, right? Dust or clay or mud, all of these materials. And then Hawa was created from his rib. Why didn't Allah just make her from dust too? Why couldn't the process just be repeated? Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't need to make anything from anything. Adam alayhi salam could have been told be and he would become. But he chose to make him from dirt. Why? Why didn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just say be and then Adam came into being as he was? Why did he choose to make him from dirt? Yeah, Yasin. Yeah, you and me might have different color, different height, different strength, different wealth, and that might make me feel better than you or worse than you, but at the end of the day, we're all from the same original material that we all step on and scrape off the bottom of our shoes. Nobody gets dirt on them and says, hey, check this out. So that should be humbling. Anything else? Yeah. In what sense? Okay, a lesson for Iblis. I'll take it. Anything else? There's something a lot more closer. First one's humility. There's one that's more closer. Closer. Yes, ma'am? I do. It's not what I was asking though, but it's good, and scholars have mentioned it as a beneficial point, but that's not what I'm asking. Yes. Yeah, this is where you're headed. That was like a lot closer. This is your origin material, and it's also your destination. You were born for what, 60, 70 years? On average, a little higher for women, right, because they're killing us. And then, how long were you here before? Thousands of years? I mean, how long was here existed before you? Tens of thousands of years? You don't know. Way longer than 60, 70. How long will it exist after you go? Way longer than 60, 70, most likely. So your existence here, as we've mentioned before and highlighted and reflected over, this phase that we're in now, interacting, me and you, seeing it, and this is the end all be all, and this is what we live and fight and die for and spend every penny on, This is the shortest phase of our existence and the least focused on in terms of our actual existence, our actual purpose. But in any case, Allah didn't create Hawa from that same dust. That was the point we were talking about. He chose to create her from the rib of Adam. So this is an indication of so many things. Number one is that you are one race, right? This is an even more stronger indication that you are one race, that you're from each other, that your existence and your success is codependent on one another. That the relationship that you should have is one of closeness, right? The rib is right next to the heart. He didn't make her from his back or his fingernails. It was from his rib, right? That's also a purposeful decision by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, intentful decision. So there's a lot of reflection here. But in any case, in this verse, he says, and from his signs that he created for you, from you, spouses, to do what? لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا, so that you can find tranquility therein. وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً, and he placed between you mutual love and compassion. We'll talk about those later. But this is just drawing the structure of the family and the Muslim home. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals to Musa alayhi salam as things are getting worse, the oppression of Fir'aun is picking up, and Bani Israel is complaining. Bani Israel does that a lot, obviously. But in this case, they're complaining, and it's not just whining. They're saying, look, we believed in you. It's been years, and this conflict has not resolved. What do we do now? Fir'aun is picking up the oppression. It's a very relevant point here, outside of the Muslim home and marriage. They're saying, like, how long is this going to give up? How long is this going to let up? How long do we have to face this? If we're upon the truth, he's upon falsehood, you're giving him the signs, he's rejecting them. What gives? When is Allah going to step in? Bani Israel is asking this. Musa Islam's response comes from Allah. وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَى مُوسَى وَأَخِيهِ أَن تَبَوَّأَ لِقَوْمِكُمَا بِمِصْرَ بُيُوتًا وَاجْعَلُوا بُيُوتَكُمْ قِبْلًا وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَبَشِّرِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Tell your people in Egypt to go to their houses and to make them places of worship, to make them a qibla, a place where they face for prayer, and to continue the prayer, to establish the prayer and give good news to the believers. Did you hear Bani Israel's complaint? You heard their context? Did you hear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's response? And then he says, after that, we're going to resolve Fir'aun's issue. And Musa alayhi salam himself at the end of this conversation makes dua against Fir'aun. رَبَّنَا اطْمِسْ عَلَى أَمْوَالِهِمْ وَاشْدُدْ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ فَلَا يُؤْمِنُوا حَتَّى يَرَوْا الْعَذَابَ الْأَلِيمَ. Oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, fasten upon their hearts such that they don't believe until the final moment, and cut off their sources of wealth. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds to him, قَدْ أُجِيبَتْ دَعْوَتَكُمْ, I respond to both of you, him and Harun. Harun was with him making dua. So outside of that, and Musa said making dua and Allah bringing the resolution, his answer to Bani Israel was, keep doing what you're supposed to be doing. Keep up your devotion, keep up your commitment. You are being hasty. And then his response to Musa in that same conversation was, your dua will be answered and their end is near. Two different responses in the same situation because of two different attitudes towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's obedience, towards commitment, and towards victory. One was rushing, and the other one was patient and obedient. The victory was around the corner and the dua was answered, but the first reply for the first group was, go home and pray, focus on your devotion. You got a lot of work to do. And the answer to Musa alayhi salam and his brother was done. Their end is coming. But in any case, the point of focus here is your home should be a place of prayer. Right? This is part of the purpose of the home. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ مِنْ أَزْوَاجِكُمْ وَأَوْلَادِكُمْ عَدُوًّا لَكُمْ فَاحْذَرُوهُمْ. If you consider it, for sure, you'll find that amongst your spouses and children are enemies to you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't mean that in the way that a bunch of broken homes exist where people are fighting each other nonstop. That's not what Allah's talking about. What he means is like they're enemies to you. They may be hindrances and obstacles on your way towards me. There were some people who this verse was revealed about. They remained in Mecca to the very end, even though it wasn't an option. Right? Hijrah was not an option. Why did they stay behind? They said, who's going to take care of these people? What are we going to do with our families, our tribesmen? So they stayed behind, and they lost an opportunity that will never be, there's no tawbah for it. Maybe Allah will forgive you, but there's no way you can make up for it. Right? There's no way that you can bring this opportunity back. You will never make hijrah. That's it. It's done. You will never join the Prophet ﷺ in Badr and Uhud and all these situations. Abdurrahman ibn Auf, years later, he's wiping his face with a handkerchief and he started to cry. And he said, I remember the day when they asked him why, the day that they buried Mus'ab ibn Umair. And when they covered his face, his feet would show. And they pulled down the cloth, or not the cloth, the leaves that they found to cover his feet, his face would show. And when they covered his face, his feet would show. And he's remembering Mus'ab ibn Umayr because they had similar backgrounds. They were both extremely rich. But he says he died in Uhud and that was his state. And now look at us. Allah gave us all this. I'm worried that this is our reward here. This is the end of the line for us. While Mus'ab cashed out. He had the better end. So the point of this is that certain people failed that test because of their families. They stayed behind, they stayed home. And when the Prophet ﷺ, when everything came full circle and he conquered Mecca and they saw it all come to conclusion, they turned on their families. They said, you cost us everything. Like, what do we have to show for it now? When they seen the epic legacy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave others, but it was too late, right? It was their own fault for being weak in their commitment. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not saying you look at your family with a suspicious or aggressive or an eye of animosity, but saying consider your purpose and everything else is either helping you get there or what? Or hindering you. There's nothing in the middle. There's nothing in existence that is in the middle. It doesn't exist. It either helps me on my path towards Allah or it hinders it. And family could be either. So some of your family, some of your spouses could be an enemy to you. But all of them are a trial. إِنَّمَا أَمْوَالُكُمْ. So the first verse, some of them are an enemy. The second verse right after it, إِنَّمَا أَمْوَالُكُمْ وَأَوْلَادُكُمْ فِتْنَةً. Your family and your wealth, all of them are just a trial. It's just a test. Will you do right by us? That's all it boils down to in the end. That is the end all be all for our lives. Inshallah, I'll try to wrap it up. And inshallah, hopefully next time we'll start on time and finish on time. Lastly, a source of comfort and joy, that one's pretty obvious. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to ask for that. رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ. Oh Allah, gift us from amongst our spouses and our children that which is pleasing to our eyes. We love to look at. It makes us happy to see, happy to encounter, happy to be in the presence of. He told us, he's not only commanding us to ask for this, he said this is the dua of who? Of the righteous believers who enter Jannah. This is the cream of the crop, right? Ibadur Rahman. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing them. This is their dua. So I put this on purpose next to the one right before it because the one right before it was what? Enemies. Thank you, Adam. You're sitting right where the other Adam sat. So it's trippy because he would answer as well, but you're not that Adam. Anyway, pay attention, guys. This isn't important. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us this is what they make dua for, and these are the righteous. So it's not, the previous verse was not for you to, I want to hear what's going on. The previous verse was not so that you can create this dichotomy between you and your family in this constant conflict, but it's just to understand everything holistically. And this is telling us that Muslims are normal people. They love their families too. Okay, that's from the Quran. Let's look at the Sunnah very quickly. We have so many ahadith. I had a lot here. I don't want to go over all of them for the sake of time. And it gets repetitive, but and a lot of them we're going to go over again. But for me, it's just very enjoyable to shift the lens. I have a great time doing this all the time. I'm sure you guys heard me repeat it over and over. I love the concept, exploring the concept, explaining the concept, reflecting over the concept of shifting our perspective. Because I do believe that our perspective about family, about finances, about relationships, about purpose of life, about pleasure, about everything is completely corrupted. It's completely defunct compared to how we're supposed to be. So I had a lot of these, but I won't share all of them for the sake of time. The first of them, the Prophet ﷺ said, Ya ma'ashar al-shabab, man istata'a minkum al-ba'ata falyatazawwaj. Whoever, O young men, he's addressing them directly, whoever of you can get married, has the ability to get married financially, then let him do so. It's more effective in lowering the gaze and protecting one's chastity. So here he's saying that the process of getting married is protection for you. We have the hadith where he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that at the beginning of each day, Shaitan puts his throne on the water. He has a little assembly somewhere. It's in the ocean, who knows where, who cares. But his throne is on the water. That's how the assembly looks like. And in that assembly, he sends out his troops in the morning, like everyone get to work, we got stuff to do. They come back later and they report to him. Everybody reports what they have done for the day. So one of them says, I did not leave him, meaning this person, this Muslim, until he did this action. He lied, he stole, he did whatever. And then Shaitan, Iblis himself tells him, Ma sana'tu shay'an, you did nothing. Whatever. Peanuts. And then another one comes and he says, Ma taraktuhu hatta farraqta baynahu wa bayna imra'atah. I did not leave him until I separated between him and his wife. I ended that marriage. So Shaitan says, Na'am ant, you're the one. This guy's the man. And he brings him close and he tells him, sit here. So what does this tell us? Why is this included here? Destroying marriages is one of Shaitan's top goals. That shows us how vital it is. Right? Breaking up the home is something that Shaitan is really proud of. And he's not as proud of it as other things. This is the only thing that's mentioned in hadith where he's super proud of. It shows you how vital it is to succeed and how much of a target it is for him. He also said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, خيركم خيركم لأهله وأنا خيركم لأهله. The best of you are those that are best to their families, and I'm best to my family. Meaning, I'm going to lead by that example. That's my job. That's something that you will find in my example. So the best of you are those that are best to your family. He also said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, دينار أنفقته في سبيل الله ودينار أنفقته في رقبة ودينار تصدقت به على مسكين ودينار أنفقته على أهلك أعظمها أجرا الذي أنفقته على أهلك. A gold coin that you gave in jihad, and a gold coin that you gave to free a slave, and a gold coin that you paid to feed a poor person, and a gold coin that you paid to just simply feed your family. The greatest of them in reward is the one that you paid to do what? To feed your family. Why? What does feeding your family have that is different than everything we just mentioned? Jihad, freeing a slave, feeding a poor person. My family? I got tons of people. There's other people. That's not necessarily the case. It's on the right track though. These deeds are huge, right? Jihad, freeing a slave, and feeding a poor person. Or a French fry I put in my kid's mouth, like, doesn't compare, does it? In goodness. It's an obligation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards the obligations. That's why He made them obligatory. He demands that you fulfill this. It's not optional. Is it an obligation? It could. All these others could be obligatory, but the default is they're not. They're obligatory maybe on the whole of society to fulfill, but you individually, no, they're not. What about your family? That's an obligation. You can have billions of dollars in charity on the Day of Judgment, billions of hours spent in good, and all that will be like, yeah, we'll look at that. That will be rewarded. It will be approached later. Where's your family? Right? That's the first question. This is your obligation. Where's your prayers? But I solved cancer. Great. We'll get to that. Where's your salah? All of it is equal in front of Allah, right? 5 daily prayers, Hajj, curing every disease on earth. What does Allah gain from any of it? Nothing. It's all equivalent in His eyes in terms of what He gains or how He changes. Nothing. So He demands this is what's important, this is what's good for you, this is what's good for everybody. And everything else is important as well, but secondary. So part of Islam, submission to Allah, is recognizing that, and He made spending on your family, caring for your family, an obligation. So it's more rewarding. Yeah, Ahmed. I knew that was going to come eventually when I mentioned it. I should have probably never said it. I didn't expect anyone to remember, actually. Good job, Ahmed. Kind of. So when they would stop working at 40 or 50 and retire for life, life was very different then. Like instead of like 2 loaves of bread today, we're going to have 1. So his family was like, okay. Also, at 40 or 50, the kids are what? 15, 16, 20. They go on in their own lives. If they're not already married and going on, they may be in like an apprentice at a blacksmith somewhere in a couple of years. They're going to move on with their own lives. There's no rent. Everyone lives in their own home, and home is usually like a hut with very meager. So for him to say, because what Ahmed's asking about, it was common practice amongst, not necessarily the Sahaba, but many of the generations immediately after, they would straight up retire at like 40 or 50. They'd just come home one day and say, I'm done, closed up shop, I sold everything, or I just stopped working. And when they asked them why, they said, I'm on my way out. I have one foot in the hereafter. I have to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the best possible state. It's all worship here on out. I need to make sure that I end on a high and give it my all, what life is actually all about. So if he lived till 45 or to 70 or to 80, it didn't matter, because at that point he's like, enough dunya, enough worldly life. I lived the family, I had the kids, I had a good time. That stuff is over. And if you compared that compared to what people do now, it wouldn't even compare anyway. But this was a common mentality. It wasn't abnormal. So they were able to do that for the reasons that I mentioned. So if someone were to retire at 40 now, then they get evicted, and their family is starving. That's absurd, right? That's not what Deen is calling for whatsoever. In fact, they'd be sinful, and all that worship would be, I don't want to say useless, but it's definitely like misplaced. Could be useless even. Yeah, I see. Oh, it's not what I said, but okay. He said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a gold coin that you spend to buy food for your family. Or just spend on your family. Well, this didn't say, another hadith will clarify that it's not just about you just give them money, it's providing their needs is what's being referenced here. It doesn't mean like, oh, if I have $1, giving it to Yusuf would be better than spending it in charity. That's not what's said here at all. It's like spending on my family for their needs. Once their needs are fulfilled, no, then the equation changes. It's no longer an obligation to give them past their needs being fulfilled. Yeah. Yes. Not feeding your family, but the other luxuries and the other amenities, the ummah would be a priority. Sure. All the above. People still play PlayStation? All right. Who am I to judge? Prophet ﷺ was interacting with one sahabiyat once, and they had a long conversation. I'm not going to quote it for the sake of time. But in the end, he was asking about her husband, and she was talking about the service that she presented to him. And then he told her, ﷺ, "Unzuri ayna anti minhu, فإنه جنتك ونارك." Consider your relationship with him, because therein lies your paradise and your hellfire. This duty is serious. A man asked to join him in jihad. He told him, "Are your parents alive?" He said, "Yes, and they're elderly." He said, "Go take care of your mother. فَالْزَمْهَا فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ عِنْدَ رِجْلَيْهَا." Go stick by her, you will find Jannah by her feet. The Prophet ﷺ said that al-walid, the father or the parent, could be neutral or it could be the father. أَوْسَعَ أَبْوَابِ الْجَنَّةِ is the widest of the gates of Jannah. So what is the point of all these hadith now? This relationship is the most consequential. These relationships. Not only are they obligatory and super rewarding, but they're just consequential in general. Your hereafter is strongly determined by relationship exclusively to these people. Exclusively. Meaning outside relationships could not matter. Could. This doesn't mean you're good to your family and a jerk to everyone else. But what it means is if that's the case, you could be okay. That could be significant enough to make it. That's not a recommendation. Anyone who's purposely a jerk to anybody is losing out on husn khuluq and possibly jeopardizing a ton of their worship. But let's say someone who by their nature, they're very cool with their family, they're very nice with their family, they're very compassionate, they click with nobody else, and they like nobody else. That could be fine, Islamically. As long as it's their nature and there's nothing they can do about it and they're giving their family, that's who matters. Other people matter too, but this configuration works. The other one doesn't. The other one never works. Nice to everyone else, compassionate to everyone else, and a jerk with their family. That never works. That's never okay. There's no situation where it's like, okay, makes sense. The other one could. It's not what we aim for. But then the converse is not true. So keep that in mind as something to start with. The Prophet ﷺ, we said all this, right? Excellence to your family, best of you, best of your families, most rewarding charity, gravest neglect. We want all of that. The world, he said, "Dunya mata'a," that this world is a temporary enjoyment, and the best of it is a righteous wife. And other ahadith that all's giving weight to these individuals and showing us that the focus is inward. You put these ayat and the hadith together, you get this. What is the Muslim family? What is the Muslim home made out of? These things. These are the core principles and the tenets that we should be working on in ourselves. I'm going to send you guys these slides if you want them. You can zell me. And so this is what we should be working on in ourselves, looking for in other spouses, and then following in our homes to see what's missing, what needs work, what needs reinforcement, what's good but needs more. These are the 7 categories based on these ayat and hadith. And there's a mix of worldly things, like legacy, ongoing name. It's a mix of worldly and hereafter. Tranquility and affection, that's worldly. And then there's things that are bigger picture, right? Which is purpose, test and accountability, worship and remembrance. Our deen covers both, and that is the balance that allows you to function properly in a home. How often does that conversation happen in our homes? Where one person says, it's not all about religion and worshiping, the other person says, yeah, well, the dunya is going to end anyway, and you're going to go to your grave, and then you're just sitting there with your cereal like, No, never happened to you? Me neither. I don't eat cereal, but like you get the idea. So very often that conflict happens where people are clashing with one another, people are not seeing eye to eye, and it's most likely there is a imbalance in these 7. Someone's taking one ayah, one hadith and running with it in their mind, and because it's an ayah or hadith or a vital, crucial, true component of marriage, they just can't see what the other person is saying. That's like 99% of problems, not just with spouses with each other, but kids with parents in every single direction. It's rarely because this person is just evil or is malicious. That's rare. It happens, but it's rare. It's usually this person's right, this person's right. One of them is righter than the other. Is righter a word? One of them is more right than the other. And but they both have valid points that come up from these 7 that all stem from our tradition, from the Quran and Sunnah. That's like my experience. Could be wrong. Finish the sentence now. The number one problem plaguing the Muslim family today is Muslim families constantly struggle with, and any negative associations with the Muslim family. Doesn't have to be your family. You are anonymous though. What was the code again? 1290272? 1270292. 1270292. Both these experiments have a purpose. I'll tell you in a second, or in a minute. How can someone know if they're ready for the commitment of marriage? What should they ask themselves or understand? Come next week. And the week after. And the week after that. Come for the next 3 weeks at least, preferably for the next 12, but at least for the next 3. Lack of knowledge. Anger, especially from the head of the household. Number one problem plaguing the Muslim family today is thinking gentle parenting is right. Checking my dad's here. Sounds like my dad. The number one problem is lack of Islamic knowledge that's balanced with educational/psychological knowledge. Can you send us these slides? I cannot see from where I'm sitting. I said I'll send them. Most problem stems from selfishness and lacking in the rights of their spouse. Muslim families constantly struggle with balancing deen and dunya. The number one problem plaguing the Muslim family today is prioritizing culture over Islamic knowledge. Please tell us which culture. Let's make it juicy here. Problem within Muslim families today is individualism. The biggest problem in families is idle amusement. Sure. Muslim families consistently struggle since they compare themselves to TikTok and Instagram family bloggers, which is BS. All right, your words, not mine. Number one problem is lack of communication and failure to understand Islam. Are weddings with music haram? I love how that one erased everything before it. A problem plaguing the Muslim community. Oh, we read that. Oh, lack of awareness that love consists of work. It's good stuff. So, you could populate them with questions now. We'll go back for questions. A lot of what you said I agree with. Just a list of some of these common pain points that people complain about, surveys mention. But that was not the purpose of that, actually, because we're going to explore that through the next 12 weeks, what the ideal Muslim home looks like and what the failed Muslim home looks like. So the purpose of these 2 activities was not to actually gauge any responses. It was to see what baggage you're coming in with into this class. Because today's class number 1, and you got to do what? Unbaggage the baggage. Is that something? Leave the baggage at the door, is what normal people would say. And what I was going for. You could unbaggage the baggage. Who am I to judge? But you can leave it at the door, preferably. We're going to have tons of conversations, explore a lot of concepts. What your family looks like, what you heard, what your culture is baggage that should be left at the door. That's it. I was going to say something else, but I'll keep it simple. A lot of times when we mention certain things, you'll be like, but I thought this. Come in as a student. Super important. Even if you're already married. Because I know this might be offensive. I hope it might be offensive. Over 90% of our homes are broken in the Muslim community. That's just a fact. Broken home doesn't mean people are divorced, it means the home is not functioning according to what we're about to mention. It's broken. Broken doesn't mean shattered. There's a good amount of them are shattered too. But I won't give you the statistics here, I don't want to be pessimistic. But a good chunk of them are broken. And if I were to say 80-90%, that's not an exaggeration, that's not sarcasm. I know it's hard to tell sometimes, but I'm being serious. So if you speak to any Muslim youth about their family life, you'll see. You'll see how quickly the conversation hits into these obstacles that do not represent most of what we're about to talk about. In the prophetic home, in the laws that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down to us, in the recommendations that are up to you, even in the things that Islam leaves up to culture, people mess it up. There's tons of stuff, by the way, in family law, in marriage, that Islam leaves up to culture. That's why I said leave the baggage at the door. Tons of the people saying the number one problem is culture. Culture is a big problem. It's not the number one. Because guess what? Islamically, in a lot of these things that we're going to discuss, it's going to default to culture. Islam says your culture is what will determine it. Not just what your culture will determine it, but you must abide by it except with a valid reason, or else you might be sinful. Why? Why are you going against the culture? Things that are an exception that we are going to discuss that will change everything is a gathering like this. Why? Because this isn't necessarily one culture. It's not one country. But for the most of human history, that was the norm, right? So we'll discuss that in detail. I don't want to get into examples now, or else it'll be a can of worms that if we open it, we have to eat it. That's not something people say, but you know, we know what I mean. Like, we won't be able to finish it. So where does culture play the role and where doesn't it? That's something that we'll explore, inshallah. We already talked about this. AI just did it again for some reason. Made the same slide as in the beginning. Any questions? Let me highlight the journey for us, so that way if you're going to ask a question that's coming up, you just see it here. What did I do wrong, Ahmed? Nothing. So this is what we'll be doing the next 12 weeks, inshallah. So next week is the ideal spouse. How do you be the ideal spouse? What is the ideal spouse, irrespective of gender? Then what is the ideal husband? What is the ideal wife? The characteristics that are necessary, that are recommended, that you guys prefer. We're going to talk about all of that. Any questions, comments, concerns? You have the Slido if you don't want to say it out loud. Like I said, I'll prioritize real life questions. Never mind, my foot will make it up here. Yes. I'll look for one. You want me to give everyone homework, Ahmed? Ahmed wants homework for all of you guys. He's that guy. No. He has a point. I'll see if I can find a recommended playlist. Muslim men want women to take the first step now. I don't even know what that means. Why is it hard to find good men to take the lead and court women? They think they have so many options and often don't take it seriously. P.S. Most women in NYC. I hope I read it in the proper tone of disgust. We're going to get to all of this. You're jumping the gun. We'll get to it. That's still like finding Mr. and Mrs. Right is session 5. Take it easy. You have good points, but no, you have points. And we'll get to them. We'll discuss them. But not now. I hope that's okay. Please stay tuned. Keep these questions, please. Don't forget them. Write them down somewhere and we'll get to them. Anything else? If it's in the future, I will ask that you wait just because it's going to be a whole talk on that, inshallah. Yes, ma'am. It's okay. You want more details about things? Yeah. I understand exactly what you're saying. I will not do that. No, I'm going to write a note right now. Someone just sent me, even aliens know Allah. I guess so. Inshallah, there'll be a lot more than general pointers about which spouse to choose or not. There's a good chunk of you here who's going to get super offended because you're going to be in the characteristics of what not to choose. No, I'm serious. There's a good chunk of both sessions that are going to offend both sides, and I can't wait. Okay, excellent. So it should hurt a lot less. I apologize in advance and in retrospect. And right now. I got all 3 time periods that humans exist in. Are there any questions? Jazakumullah khairan. We will see you inshallah next week, picking up with the ideal spouse. Like I said, feel free to come with a list of questions ready. The only time I will defer them or not answer them is if we're going to have a whole session dedicated to it later, simply because then it'll just be very tedious and our progress will be hindered. But inshallah, you have the sessions and the topics that will be covered, so come prepared. Look into whatever you want to look into. Look into whatever controversial ruling you want to discuss here. It's no holds barred. There's no red lines. We can be respectful, of course. Use respectful language. But other than that, you can ask anything and everything. If I can answer it, I will. If I can't, I'll make up the answer and then look it up later. And everything will be fine. Jazakumullah khairan everyone. Subhanaka wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Sallallahu barik ala sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sallam. I'll see you